Hey, welcome to lesson 4 in this 5-lesson series. Today we're going to tie a pheasant tail nymph. I've got a size 14 nymph hook in the vise and some 8/0 dark brown uni. So let's get started. Tie in. I'm going to run my thread down the shank to just the bend, start of the bend of the hook. Move that waist. Did a bad job on that. Trim that out. Alright, that's good. We want to come over to our pheasant tail and pick about 5 or 6 fibers, no more than that. You don't need a bunch. Pull those off. You're going to end up with some curly butt ends like that. And it's always a good idea to trim those out. They have a habit of getting in the way of whatever you're doing. This pheasant tail is oddly actually bent, I guess the way it's sat in the package, so I'm taking a little time to even up these tips for the tail. They're not quite as even as I would like. It's good. Get rid of that guy. Alright, so I like my tail to be about the length of the shank of the hook. Maybe a little bit shorter. I like to put one wrap down and then check it. That looks good. I'm going to put a wrap in front, a wrap underneath those fibers, and then one wrap on top. Those are good and locked in there. I've got some brassy sized copper wire. I'm going to cut about a 2.5, 3-inch length of this. We use the tip of this as a measuring point. So we'll put this tip about 2/3 of the way up the shank of the hook. 2/3, 3/4, and that's where we'll roughly stop our abdomen. So it just gives a little point of reference. It can be useful. Tie this this rib in. Then we can take our pheasant tail fibers and just wrap them forward like so, which will give us a nice even abdomen. Drop our thread over the top, pull down, lock those in, couple wraps in front, couple wraps on top, trim those out. We want to counter wrap this wire, which will be our rib. It just comes across these pheasant tail fibers and offers them structural support because they're actually fairly delicate and they'll break pretty quickly if they're not supported. So just run that rib forward and wrap off our wire here so that we can helicopter it off like so. Alright. Come back to my pheasant tail. This time I'm going to pick about anywhere from 8 to 12 fibers. Again, pull them vertically, just strip them off. And again, we've got those curly butt ends. You want to get rid of those, trim those out. And we'll tie these in by the tips. Give this a little tug here. That's good. These will be our legs and our wing case. And you can play with how long you want your legs. I tend to have the tips about, maybe 1/4 of an inch past the eye of the hook. But you can play with that length if you want longer legs. And then just run your thread back to where we stopped our abdomen. So this will be our wing case. These will be our legs. For our thorax, all we need is 1 strand of peacock herl. You got a butt end that's not particularly useful. You trim that out. And you've got a tip that is really nice, but it's very delicate, so it's really hard to tie with. It tends to break. So you want to trim both of those out. Now you'll see if you look closely too that herl has a slightly longer fiber on one side. You want to tie that longer fiber on the top if you can. It'll give you a slightly better looking thorax. And then we're just going to take this 1 strand, that's all you need, wrap it forward. If you want a thicker thorax, you can just take this, run through a couple times, drop your thread over the top, in front, over the top once more, move that. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to lift these legs up. So I'm going to take my thumb, come underneath them, and with my nail just push these fibers back. That lifts them up and splays them, which is what we want. Roughly splits them 50-50. Fish don't really count, so you don't have to be too fussy, but it's good if you can, for the look of your fly, just kind of get them roughly even if you can. There we go. I think that's going to be pretty good. So I'll just pull this wing case forward. You can kind of coax these legs back a little bit more now. Once that is in place, you can wrap over the top your wing case. Really lock those fibers down. Now I'm going to come in front, put a few wraps of thread in front of those fibers, and then come back and wrap over on top. Alright, now that really locks those fibers in, and why I did that is if you take the time to come in and just pull these fibers off one at a time, you'll get a really nice clean head. You don't have to worry about wrapping over any butt ends. This is particularly useful if you've perhaps maybe crowded the eye a little bit. You can see those fibers come off pretty easy. Now all we're going to do is take our whip finish tool, come in and put down a nice whip finish. Pull that tight, trim out our thread, and then for good measure, as always, come in with some head cement. Just touch up that thread, cover that so it's protected. Looks good. And then we'll just clear the eye, and you have a pheasant tail nymph for your box. And this is a great mayfly imitation. You can tie it down to like a 20, so it doubles as a midge, or just a really small nymph. You can tie it larger. It's a great pattern. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thanks a lot.